Hey everybody, something a little bit different today. After my kids got old enough to go away to college, and I didn't have the excuse to be camping with them every weekend, my wife told me she would start doing more of this stuff with me. She's not a backpacker, but she does like this. So we have gotten into the mini micro RV world. This is a NuCamp T G. 13.5 feet long. It's basically a bedroom with an outdoor galley attached. And we've been having a lot of fun with it. But if you're like many owners, everybody's wants to do modifications to this thing. We're about half and half boondocking and half on power. So frankly, one of the first things we wanted to do was get rid of this microwave. We have not done that yet. Just because the times when we are on power, I got to admit it's a little bit useful. That's one thing we may be doing, is replace that for storage. But the thing I wanted to show you, they come, I think if you get one new these days, there's a big Yeti cooler that comes with it. This was used, and basically this is an open space for all of your food storage. We got this nice DC refrigerator, but it's just a hole, right? And if you want to actually do anything with it, you have to be creative. So I put in this nice drawer on slides that is perfect for storing this, but it is short enough so that, you know, this is where our refrigerator is, quote unquote, but it is short enough. I've got this space here that I want to put in another drawer for utensils and some general storage. So I thought I might walk through what's involved in doing that, and it'll give you an idea of how easy it is to do that and this as well, because I'm gonna use the same techniques and the same approach as I did for the lower drawer. Just maybe a little less measuring is going to be required for this because the dimensions aren't quite as critical. So yeah, we're going to try that. A little bit different, but hopefully y'all will find it useful. We've been having a lot of fun boondocking off-grid with it. If I can get my wife to come join me, it's been a great way to spend some time together. So anyway, another way to get out there. Let me show you what we're going to do here. All right, so first thing first is some measurements. The drawer that I want to put in is actually not that critical, because all I really need to do, I'm not looking for a huge amount of space in this drawer, and I just need to make sure it remains under this cabinet here. So the total from the back wall to that cabinet, you can see there is 20 inches. So I'm going to put an 18-inch shelf guide in there and cut the drawer to about 18 inches and make sure it comes out short. I will say this was more complicated, and it will be for yours too, no matter what you do, because the height and how much it comes out is also important. You notice this curve, you got to make sure that your height is not such that you're impeding on the extension of that curve, right? It's actually out here where the seal is. So there's a compromise between how far you want this out, how far it has to come out to open the door. That's going to vary, you know, refrigerator to refrigerator. I will tell you, I used 18-inch drawer slides, and what was my overall drawer length? Let's see. There you go, a hair under 26 inches, right? So drawer's going to be shorter than that. I'm just going to do 18. While we're here, 17 3/4 inches, and just a hair under that. All right, so doing some rough math, I figured that an 18-inch deep drawer at about 17 inches wide or so, I ought to be able to get all I need to make the bottom out of a 1x6 finished pine. It's a 6 feet long piece, so I ought to have enough to do that. And then similarly, I can do a perimeter. I calculated about 70 inches needed of the 1x2 here. So a 6 feet piece there should work, although I don't have a lot to play with. I'm going to have to be careful with that. Critical thing to start with is the drawer glides. Again, I got an 18-inch full throw drawer, meaning it'll come out its full length. We need to get into this and understand, these are side mounted, not bottom mounted. Need to understand what the distance has to be between the wall you mount it to, the drawer glides going together, and then the drawer, so that we can cut this specifically the way we need it. Alright, so let's see. According to this, I need a 1/2 inch on each side between the mounting wall and the drawer. I measured the space where I want to put this thing at 17 and 11/16. So 16 and 11/16 is the size of my bottom drawer. Got to get this right or the thing won't fit. It won't slide. It won't align properly. So this is critical. Alright, after this first cut, I went and just measured it in the slot to make sure that that was right. 16 11/16 appears to do it. I did notice, by the way, my vertical walls are not entirely square. The size of the drawer at the bottom is like a 1/16 inch wider than the size it's going to be at the top. So just make sure you measure, don't assume. A 1x6 is actually about 5.5, so when I put all three of them together, I get about 1.5 inches less than the 18. So yeah, I'm at about 16.5 inches total. This isn't critical, right? I think that is plenty for my drawer. I want to make sure that like my silverware rack fits there, but I think that's going to be fine. I have enough that I could do another one, but then I would be so big that I would be hanging way outside the top of my shelf, so I don't want to do that. I think 3 is going to be plenty. All right, next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and cut the long, well, I'm not sure they're the long, I'm going to cut into the drawer length of the rails, and I want to put a 45 degree miter on those just to make it look nice at the end. So I want to make sure the long side of my rails is 16 3/16 inch long. I'm going to go ahead and cut those now because those are going to help me tie these together instead of just gluing them. So 2 at 16 3/16. Here we go. First thing I'm going to do is cut the end off at the 45 degrees so I make sure my measuring reference is correct. All right, there you go. Now for a little wood glue on the butt joints of these things, and then I'm going to screw these in from the bottom, help tie everything together. Have to make sure you're in far enough from the corner so that you don't get the thin area where the miter is. All right, here we go. That's a drawer. Now I just need to measure these specifically, miter those up as close as I can get them so that they look good. I'll put the worst side in the back because again, I'm not doing this as a precision activity. They're just doing it good enough to make it work. All right, let's see what we can do. Here we go. Close enough. I'll screw that one in, then measure the other one. Notice I'm doing this first, and I'll screw it in first because if there's any adjustment or play needed in the last one, I'm not dealing with two at once. I cut that a tad too long. I don't like how much that corner is going to hang out. Let me trim that a little bit. Yeah, it's much better. Drawer. Pretty nice. Okay. let's get some drawer sliders on this thing. So all of these drawer glide manufacturers are going to be different. Take them apart, read how you want them to go. In this case, remember, I got 18-inch glides. I've got 16 3/4-ish drawers. So I'm going to make sure that the front of this thing, I got to flip this over, that the front of my drawer, that I don't have any metal hanging out over the front. So I'm going to slide these glides back. They also give you, in my case, precise measurements about how far from the top of the drawer and everything. That's so that when you mount everything, you know, you can picture a cabinet front so that the drawer faces land exactly where you want them to go. I don't necessarily care about that, right? So what I really need to do is just make sure that these are parallel with each other and that they are parallel in the direction I want the drawer to move. I'm going to use the bottom pieces that I put in here as a guide and just line up my edge flush with the front of the drawer. Notice I've taken this thing apart, so I've only got this rail. The part that this mates into will be fastened to the trailer, and then we'll do the same thing in there, and then hopefully everything will line up that this will just slide in. You know, that's that's the hope. All right, key step here is to put them back together. Two reasons for that. One is when they manufactured these, at least the ones I've got, they are the same part on both sides, which means in order to have your releases feel the same, one is actually mounted upside down from the other because they should be mirror images and not identical, right? So you got to make sure you understand which way is which when you go to mount them. The second is need to make sure these screws are in, they're low profile, but that they're in good enough that they don't interfere with the rest of the mechanism. So if I do this right though, it ought to also just be sort of satisfying when it all goes back together. Let's make sure that I'm doing this correctly though. Here we go. That's good. All right, let's do the other side. Okay, so I got a problem. This side, this center board is either misaligned or just a little tad bit longer than the others, and I'm getting some rubbing right here. So I need to take this board down a little bit, give a little bit more clearance for the slides. Okay, that's unexpected, but I can take care of it. A little bit of chiseling, a little bit of filing. Now it works. It's a little firmer, a little bit more resistance than the other side, but I'm not terribly concerned about that. It'll get looser with time, and it'll also keep this thing from opening accidentally while it's on the road in the trailer, which we'll need that too. All right, so now let's put this rail inside. This is a little more critical. Going to take precise measurements on both sides, and key thing is, first of all, we need to make sure that the trailer is level. So first thing I'm doing is just laying it in there on top of the refrigerator. Fortunately, it fits, and it fits snugly, so I think this is going to work just fine. Obviously, I don't want it quite that low, but this is going to be a good reference for measuring exactly where I do want it, and I can measure like where the bottom of the rail has to be in order to maybe give it, I'm thinking maybe an inch above this. We'll measure that and then get everything out of the way so we can start marking where this has to be. All right, it's dark and tight in here, so let me kind of show you what I did. I marked down from the cabinet or from the countertop 4 inches. That's where I want the bottom of the rail to go. But then after marking that, I took my level, laid it across here so that it was on my mark and level. and scored that across the entire distance. So that ought to give me a good reference to put the counter rail in. I did the same thing on both sides. Let's go ahead and put these in. One note I will point out, the screws that come with these cabinets are not very heavy duty. And you got to remember, this is in a vehicle that's bouncing around. Now granted, I'm not going to have a lot of weight in this thing, but you have to be careful. The other thing I'll note is when you do this for the refrigerator, this part of the trailer slopes up, right? So make sure you mark it in such a way that you are level and also clearing the latch for the rear clamshell, right? This part's a little trickier because the floor is definitely not level. Just make sure you mark it accordingly, and by all means use a level to help you out, only if the trailer itself is level, because if it's not, you're gonna set yourself up for trouble. All right, let's see what happens here. All right, that was probably the toughest part. There's not a lot of room back there, guys. What I found was the easiest was to reach back with a screw and hammer it in a little bit, and then get in there with the drill and go the rest of the way. Do not tighten them down until you put a level against it again, and make sure that they are good to go. So I'm going to try the big test fit now and make sure it slides in. Wish me luck. All right, here we go. That's perfect. Gets a little firmer at the end. I think that's still that rubbing from where I originally put the glides on, but that is not bad at all. All right, let me get the other one, get the refrigerator back in, get some stuff in here. We'll see what it looks like as a finished product. This is cool. So my NuCamp tag is now a whole lot more useful, with a lot more space. So all of my utensils and serving items here, spatula, ladle, big spoon, big knife. It's funny, my wife has never cooked outdoors, really, and now that we've got this whole setup, it's all propane, right? I mean, it's like grilling on your deck, but she has really wanted to make this feel like home, so you know, it's good, and we've had a lot of fun with it. Anyway, yeah, back to this. Anyway, look, everything clears perfectly. I am going to get like a little latch or something to put on here just to keep it from vibrating open while we're driving. I don't have that with me, but I'll solve that later. But with it in, plenty of room for the refrigerator to open up. And then that looks the way as well. And there you have it. That's pretty awesome. So everybody, I hope you find that useful. I am by no means a master carpenter or anything. You might have a better way of doing it. You might want to make it fancier or nicer, neater, whatever. But I just did that in about an hour and a half. And now I've got a new drawer. And that empty space is much more utilitarian. So yeah, if you've got a tag or any similar little RV, it's not a big project to make that better. And in my book, anything that helps us get out there a little more is a good way to spend an afternoon. So hope you found it useful. Good luck to you. See ya. Bye.